Once again, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining the call. My name is Edward Deborah. I am the Communications and Events Manager for Circular Economy Innovation Partnership, and I am also the project lead for the Circular Oasis community. Now, the Circular Oasis community is a relatively new community, and our focus is as much as possible to raise circular giants. That is to encourage youths and young professionals who want to create careers in the circular economy or sustainability space to find their footing. And we do this by offering them the tools that they need, the resources, the network, and opportunities, so as much as possible they can grow in that space. And this is our very first webinar. So yay, I'm excited to see what we are able to accomplish today. We have a special guest with us. I encourage you to, clap in the comment section, use the emojis to express how you feel. We have a wonderful guest with us. But before I introduce the guest, I'll quickly run through how the session is going to go. First, we'll have the introduction, which is what I'm doing now, the welcome address. Then I will introduce the guest. Then the guest will go through his presentation with us where we learn one or two things. Then if you have questions, you have suggestions, you have contributions, you're allowed to do that within a 12-minute window, and then we round up the session. So we're trying to keep to time as much as possible and just get started. So let me introduce the guest that we have with us today. So we have a fabulous man with us today. His name is Daniel Oderinde, and he is a sustainability professional with a master's degree in packaging technology and sustainability from the University of Applied Science, Vienna, Austria, and a bachelor's degree in metallurgy. Oh, sorry, I pronounced this several times before this session. Okay, a bachelor's degree in metallurgical. Oh gosh, I apologize for the wrong pronunciation, and materials engineering from the University of Lagos. He has worked with social enterprises in Nigeria and managed several innovative recovery and recycling projects, from packaging waste, community engagement events. He has facilitated corporate recycling programs in partnership with leading organizations across various sectors. And he has also managed environmental sustainability related CSRs. Now, Mr. Daniel is skilled in projects and programs management, ESG practices, and leaderships. And he is presently tasked with driving the delivery of the Nigerian National Plastic Action Partnership. So with the clapping emoji, a standing ovation with fire in the chat box, join me as we welcome our speaker for today, Mr. Daniel Oderinde. It's a pleasure to have you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, and thank you very much for that introduction. Yeah, it's actually metallurgical and materials engineering. So yeah, you tried.
Thank you.
All right. So
apologies. Thank you.
All right, no problem. That's fine. Yes. So it has been said, my name is Daniel Oderinde. I'm the manager for the Nigerian National Plastic Action Partnership. We're a multi-stakeholder platform that brings all stakeholders in the plastic value chain together. Our aim is to create meaningful action by facilitating partnerships, working with different sectors to see what can be done in the plastic value chain to make it more sustainable and to implement a circular economy across board. So what we'll be doing is speaking with stakeholders, trying to see how we can draw a national action roadmap that helps bring Nigeria to the plastic waste in the shortest possible time. So in this presentation today, I will be permit me to please share my slide. I think the light is affecting. Just give me a minute. All right, so I think it's the same, but let me just manage with that. I would like to share my slide now. Yes, so today we'll be speaking on circular economy practices, and it's a very interesting subject. Can you see my slide?
Oh, I think it's still loading right now.
Okay. All right. How about now?
No, no, still no.
Okay.
Or can anyone else see? Okay.
I can see it.
All right.
Okay,
Good.
awesome. So I think it's only me that can't see. Thank you for that feedback.
All right. So yes, circular economy in practice. I would like that this discussion is as interactive as possible, because I understand that most of us on this call today are sustainability enthusiasts or experts who are working in one field or the other, trying to promote sustainability, trying to promote circular economy, and whatever capacity that you're doing that. So I'll please employers that we chat, we discuss, you can interrupt, ask questions whenever you want to, and let us make it as lively as possible. So, firstly, okay, please kindly mute yourself when you join. It's really be helpful for us. All right. So yes, what is circular economy? It's a very common topic that we speak about, and it is even good to even know what circular economy is all about. So circular economy talks about regeneration, talks about the reuse or keeping materials in the loop as much as possible, and to avoid waste in whichever way possible. So it has to do with building up systems that would help you regenerate materials and keep them in use as much as possible, so that you do not create imbalance in the environment when you dispose them. So that is about giving new life to waste, or giving waste another opportunity to become useful. So that is it in a simple term. And if you see my slide, you see where we've been able to differentiate the circular economy from the linear economy, and we also have the recycling economy. So the linear economy is the economy where, or is the scenario whereby you use the material and you just dump it directly. So it goes right from use to the dump site, or it becomes waste. So it's so linear, very direct. The recycling economy is still preferable. It's better, and that is what we see ourselves doing today, where we use the material, we try to recycle as much as possible, reuse it and all that, but then it still eventually becomes waste, probably because of deterioration, or yes, after multiple use, somehow you don't get to recycle them anymore. But the perfect circular economy is whereby you don't get to make a material become waste at all, so that you do not generate waste. In that case, for plastics, for instance, you keep using the plastic, you keep recycling, you keep ensuring that you dispose properly, so that they don't get to the dump sites, or to the landfill and things like that. And it doesn't necessarily have to do with plastic. It's all material. So it could also be food, it could be water, it could be your wood, it could be your furniture, it could be anything. There are several ways of reuse, there are several ways of recycle, there are several ways that you can keep any material in the loop, so that you do not eventually have them as waste. So that's the concept of the circular economy. And I've been able to try to build about 4 components that speaks to the circular economy. Several times are out there, but the 4 major things, or 4 major components of the circular economy that it is what you've been spoken about today, is about durability. So when you speak about circular economy, whenever you're designing a product, you must make sure that they are as durable as possible, so that they are in use, they are in the loop as much as you can. It's also about the promotion of reuse. So there are ways you can reuse several materials, even if you don't want them anymore. Your clothes, for instance. All right, please kindly mute yourself. Your clothes, for instance, we see that people are doing thrifts today, and because whenever you don't want to use any clothes anymore, that clothes is valuable to someone else. So instead of you dumping it somewhere, there's a possibility for you putting that back into the system and making good use of it. So remanufacturing as well, which speaks to reuse or refurbishing and things like that. and recycling as well. So these terms are very, very important things that we need to watch out for in the circular economy space. I would also try to check the chat box if there's any question for me as we progress in this session today. So this is where I want us to interact. So circular economy, like I said, there are several applications to circular economy. The one we know most times is about waste or about plastics, but there are so many other sectors, so many other areas where you need to practice circular economy. So I would appreciate if you can put in the chat box several other applications to circular economy in this present world. So I'm looking out for your responses. Let's keep them coming. What areas can we apply the circular economy concept? Aside plastics, aside waste? Anyone? Just kindly put it in the chat box and let's see. All right, I'm still awaiting answers. Areas of application to circular economy, aside plastics, aside waste management. Which other area? Okay, I can see product design. That is really great. Thank you. Product design in the metal industry too, and fabrication of metals for probably cars and things like that. Yes, let us keep it coming. Electronics as well. Thank you very much. So in the electronic sector, we can see that there's a lot of use for circular economy concepts. Yeah, textile industry. Thank you very much for that. Yes, there's a lot of ways we can reuse for clothing materials, not just clothing, then textile material, and keep them in the loop as much. Polyethylene, thank you very much. Yes, let us keep it coming. Any other area? Yeah, it speaks to construction as well. Several areas, agriculture, yes, agriculture. So because you use water, you can reuse water, you can reuse your fertilizers, you can reuse your waste residues from your agricultural residues. You can use it for another application, probably for making manure or using it even as a digester for biogas production. So you can see that there's a lot of use even in the agricultural sector. So thanks a lot for the responses. If you have any other response, you can also put them on the chat box. I will proceed with this. So yeah, the circular economy concept is broad and it applies to all sectors. That is the message. It's not just about plastics. But in this presentation, I will try to focus more on plastics because it will be good to narrow down to one specific sector. And again, the theme for this year's Environment Day is yes, about beating plastic pollution. So it would be good to talk more on plastics, but let us make it as interactive as possible. You can bring suggestions or talk about any other sector that you believe is relevant to discuss in this section, in this session today. All right, so yeah, this is a snapshot of waste management in Africa. We can see that it's a very serious situation, how that waste is growing seriously in millions of tons per year. Around 2016 to date, we have about 174 million tons of waste generated in sub-Saharan Africa today. And we can see how that growing progression will be in the next coming years. In 2030, it's projected to be about 269, and it's going to get to about 516 in 2050. So this is a very serious situation at hand that we need to address as much as possible. And the collection rates is very low, and this is the reason we need to upscale capacity. In Sub-Saharan Africa, we can see the collection rate is about 40%. And when we deep dive into the different countries, we can see that not all countries are doing very well or at the same pace. So for plastics now, we can see that about 10.5 million tons is estimated to be generated as waste in Africa. These are estimations because at times we don't really get to have verified data that speaks to what is actually the real scenario. But then the estimates are good data to consider. And yeah, as much as plastics are light, the menace can be a lot when we don't get to address them, because of course we know how about that plastics, when they are improperly disposed, they go into the drainages. Then from the drainages, they go into the rivers, and from there, they find their way into the ocean. And it is predicted that by 2050, we might have more plastics than fishes in the ocean if we don't really address this plastic menace. So yes, plastic is a very critical material to address or to consider as regards the circular economy concept. All right, so if we narrow down to Nigeria, we can see that the waste collection rates in Nigeria is so low, it's about 10%, while we have other countries in Africa that are doing much better than us. I mean, we're supposed to be the giants of Africa, but then I think we need to catch up in so many things. So we see ourselves lagging behind a lot as regards the recovery capacity for plastic and other materials. So about 1 to 2.5 million tons of plastic is being generated annually in Nigeria. That is an estimate. And we can see that the collection rate is just about 10 or even less. The striking thing is about the fact that we have about 60 million pure water sachets consumed daily. So this is no joke. We have that a lot of people, I mean, those that consume pure water, if you agree with me, we see that an average person can consume about 4 to 5 sachets of water per day. So when we look at people at that middle class or at the bottom of the pyramid that consume pure water, if you do the math, considering the population of Nigeria, you show that over 60 million pure water sachets is being consumed daily. And since there is no good or sustainable recycling chain for pure water sachets at this moment, so you can just imagine what's the hazard is on the environment. And these are things we need to take notes of and develop systems to ensure that we address them adequately. So moving on. All right, so now we've talked about the plastic, the circular economy, and now we're narrowing down to the plastic economy. So we have what we call the plastic economy or the new plastic economy. It's this plastic circular economy where this is championed more like with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation that says the plastic economy is an economy whereby plastic do not become waste, but it re-enters the system as either technical or a biological nutrients. So in this case, we're talking about technical nutrients in the case that, okay, when virgin plastics are being recycled, they come into the system as also plastic. You know, there are synthetic rubbers or synthetic plastics like that. So that is a technical nutrient. But then we also have bioplastics that can also come into the system or that can biodegrade naturally and become a biological nutrient. So that is how we try to distinguish between these technical nutrients and biological nutrients. So the idea is about creating an economy whereby waste is being collected properly. And yes, it is being recycled, being reused, being redesigned, being refurbished in any way to ensure that there is no environmental hazard from that material, whichever the plastic is. And when we talk about plastics now, we are not just talking about PET because we can get lost or get to focus more on PET, while there are several other plastic applications such as polyethylene. Yeah, we just saw pure water sachets, which is more like polyethylene and polypropylene. A lot of them in use today, PVC and all that are in several applications in the automobile industry, in the construction industry, that also needs to be addressed. So it's a lot of work for us to do in Nigeria as regards plastic pollution. All right, so I would also talk about some certain aspects. It's more like case studies because it's good to see what players are doing in the plastic recovery space or the plastic circular economy space. While it is important to check about what are the practices out there, it will be good also to consider the ones that are applicable in Nigeria, because I've come to understand that most of these practices abroad are not really so feasible in Nigeria because of several factors. And those factors are external factors that are not really the fault of probably the sector, sustainability sector. We have a lot of infrastructural damages in several aspects of Nigeria today that would not allow for prosperity in the circular sector or in the circular economy or sustainability sector as it is. So whenever a recycling project is meant to be done that has to do with putting innovative processes together, things like that, we'll see that there are lots of sectors that will just kill that process. We've tried a lot to implement the separated waste collection system. We've tried a lot to see how we can deploy IoT and different digitalized systems, but then there is not much safety in the economy today. There's theft. There's a lot that would try to mitigate that. But I'll try to talk about key players that are doing something feasible in the country today. So yeah, we can say that recycling, or not recycling now, the aggregation of plastic, because that is not really recycling. When you aggregate plastic or you collect them, that is not recycling. That is a sector, that is the beginning point. And it's a very key and critical point, but that is not actual recycling. So we can say today that the collection or aggregation of plastic started probably with recycle points and recyclers. I'm sure most of us here on this call know about recycle points and recyclers. These are key giants in the recovery space that established an incentivized collection system where they engage communities and give them rewards such as household items, food items for the recovery of plastic and other recyclable materials. And they've tried for 12 to 15 years, if I by my understanding, and they've done well so far. And along the line, we saw that, okay, there's a need for innovation, there's a need to do something better than just engaging people, collecting manually and things like that. Then I understand also that GIVO brought about a disruption in that recovery space by bringing in digitalization. GIVO is doing great in that aspect, where they try to apply digitalized system, the use of mobile apps to collect plastics and things like that. And not just that, they try to link their collection to the production of a useful material in the society today, like ceiling for roofing sheets for constructions and things like that. So they took it further with that, and we saw that the recycling sector or the recovery sector got interesting. And since then, we've had a lot of companies bringing about different digitalized systems to collect waste, and not just collecting waste, trying to get a viable product from it. Because before now, it's just the collection of plastics or recyclables and just the baling and sending it to the next recycler in the value chain. But to make it more interesting, you see that it's important to also have an end product. So what can you even do internally to ensure that you're not just collecting plastic, but you're telling a story, you're trying to see what you can link together, what you can produce from that collection, because you don't really have a product per se if you're just collecting and sending to the next recycler in the value chain. So since then, we've had a lot of disruptions. We've had Packham come up with a kind of application that links aggregators of waste pickers or even households to aggregators. Yes, the household to aggregator connection was achieved, and payment systems too was optimized in that regard, where you can pick up, you can call for pickups, and whenever the aggregator comes to you, they register it on the system and you get paid. And then we had Kautani too come very recently and caused a huge disruption. By my understanding, Kautani came in with a 1.5 million naira grants, seed grants. Recently, they announced a 4 million naira seed, another grant of 4 million naira. 4 million, not naira now, dollars in the recycling space, and that is really huge. I've not seen or heard of any recycling or aggregator achieve that, and they're really playing well. They have in the value chain, they collect. They don't only collect the bill, they shred. They do the cold washing and hot washing. So these are processes that is being implemented. I'm not sure they are into pelletizing by now, but you can see how great they've done in this short time. Then the most recent one I will talk about is TrashPoint. TrashPoint came in somewhat around last year or so, and they brought digitalized system more interesting, because we've seen that payment is a big issue. Most of these waste pickers, when they bring waste to you, they want to get paid immediately. And in the case where you don't really get to pay them immediately, they either go away from you, or they don't want to supply you materials anymore. There are just issues there. And what TrashCoin did is they created a virtual wallet that allows you as an aggregator save money with them. And whenever a waste picker or an household brings waste to you, TrashCoin pays them immediately. So there's no need for any delays anymore. Once you have your cash in your wallet, you just have to authorize TrashCoin to pay the aggregator and payment is made. So we see that there's a lot of disruption in this space. There's a lot of activities, and yeah, it's getting more interesting. So these are case studies I found notable to talk about, and it doesn't end there. I would now speak about several innovative initiatives and products innovation that is in vogue today. Now, as regards production, you can see that to promote circular economy for plastic, there's a need for dematerialization. You can see that before now, plastics, water plastics, or even plastics for water or beverage was thicker than it is now. A very good example is EverWater. EverWater reduced the thickness of their plastic so significantly, and you will see that it's so light, and if care not taken, it can be very wobbly. Like, yeah, it can just slip off your hand. And this is a dematerialization technique to ensure that plastic use is reduced, and yeah, you get to use lesser material for the same product. And I've seen it successful in application today. There's also material substitution that speaks to you even using another material other than plastic in your production. We can see that there are a lot of feasible substitutes to plastic in several day-to-day production or day-to-day activities today. Paper is a very good substitute, not just paper, like a paper matrix that has a plastic film to avoid contamination and the paper getting wet and things like that. So there are a lot of composites that can be developed, although they are more expensive, but they are good substitutes to plastics in several applications today. And in the recovery space as well, we have talked about how that aggregation has been in vogue since about 15 years from now, 15 years before now. And we have also observed that the reverse vending machines have been introduced to the Nigerian economy, although it has not really thrived. But I've seen a case where an investor came in with a reverse vending machine. The reverse vending machine is a machine, we can see them more in advanced countries where you put a plastic, it's just like an ATM machine for plastic. So you put that plastic in that machine and it records the value for the plastic you put. So the more plastic you put, the more the value you get, and you can get to withdraw your amount whether by saving it in an account or getting it in cash through that process. So it's a very unique process, and the mitigants to this, like I've said, the problem with most of this initiative thriving in Nigeria is the economic situation. So imagine you having a reverse vending machine in the bus stop. You know that it's not going to last a day. It's going to be stolen and things like that, and it's going to be dismantled and all. So yeah, there are lots of challenges in that space. So innovation or innovative processes are there, but the ability to successfully implement them is the problem, because there are other third-party issues to it. So how you enable receptacles to, we're seeing that in operation today, where most of these receptacles have innovative or digitalized system that tracks the location of that receptacle. It tracks the fill time. So whenever the bin is filled up, the bin can notify the owner about pickup and things like that. So these are the way IoT is being applied in the plastic recovery sector. So that's also digitalization. And now another notable one is the recycling banks. The recycling bank is probably a container that has been dedicated for the collection of plastic. We use containers most times because yeah, that is how we started, or just a space where you can go to drop your plastic. So we have seen several aggregation hubs today implement these recycling banks. A very good one to notice with the Nigerian Bottling Company. They did that with Recycle Points, and they have a recycling bank in their office in Ikeja, where their staff are able to to drop plastics and get reward for doing that. So it's good to promote that recycling bank, and the concept of the recycling bank is several other communities today, so that people have the ability to drop their plastic much easily, and instead of spending much time or money and moving from here to there. So there are several other initiatives too. In terms of initiative, there's a lot of initiative. The waste to cash is more like an incentivized way of collecting plastic and getting your money. There are several initiatives that aggregators have implemented, like they call it like 5 for 1 or 5 for 10. That's like 5 bottles for 10 naira, 5 bottles for 1 naira. They just try to coin it to make it very lucrative, and it has happened a lot in the past, successful, and it is still happening today. We have also waste to chairs, waste for pads. We see where schools are able to donate plastics to a recycling company, and they get chairs that can be used in their schools in return. Females are able to gather plastics to get sanitary pads for their use. Waste to health, people at the bottom of the pyramid are able to gather plastics, and they get some kind of health insurance for them or their children and things like that. So we've been in that space. We've seen all this initiative thrive, although it hasn't been so well implemented, but it's a good one. It's a good start, and I believe that in the coming years we'll get to get it right with that. So we also have community engagement programs, several of them in the country today. Recycle Points, for instance, we've done a lot of engagement events with different communities. When we go to that community, we do a kind of pre-awareness program to inform them that we are coming at a certain day. Let them gather their plastics and recyclables, so that on that day they will bring them and get rewards instantly. So we've been able to implement things like that, and it is something that should still be encouraged today because it is very effective. Corporate recycling programs. So a lot of companies are beginning to wake up to the need to implement recycling in their facilities, collect waste more sustainably. So we have a lot of them, like Access Bank, Stanbic Bank, many other companies that I could mention in this regard. They partner with aggregators and things like that, and they get them to pick up their waste from their day-to-day activities. We also have the possibility of making or partnering with these companies in implementing environmental sustainability related CSRs. It also speaks to community engagement events. So there are some companies, for instance, that want to do a CSR, and they are targeting communities, local communities and things like that. So what can they do? So they can just make those communities pick up waste in their environment, and they give them huge rewards. So the value they get on that day is much more than the market price, but it's just a kind of CSR to encourage or support people in that community for that, just that day, things like that. So yeah, and also recycling partners. For instance, Recycle Point is a recycling partner to Coca-Cola. Recyclers is a recycling partner to Unilever. So when you're setting up an aggregation hub or recycling company, you can find there are a lot of private sector organizations out there that you can partner with, and you can establish that relationship so that whenever they want to do any kind of sustainability program, you are the implementing partner in that regard. So there's a lot of opportunities in that space. Yeah, so like I've said, the market is huge, but then we need to try to design waste out in all our production activities. So this is a call to action for production companies to try to design waste out or design for recycling such that your material is easily dismantled and easily recycled. So we need to put materials in use as much as possible. This is very key. Regenerate natural system as well. So several sectors for plastics in circular economy space. It's not just in the bottle-to-bottle industry or the consumer packaged goods industry anymore. Again, it's very relevant to the textile industry, like as we mentioned today, the construction industry, the automotive industry, the chemical recycling. There's also waste to energy. So your plastics, especially the pure water sachets, can be used as fuel, empowering different processes, like the Lafarge cement scheme, for instance. Lafarge was collecting plastics, pure water sachets at a point to power their plants. I don't know if it is still on today. So these are very interesting aspects. So what are the enablers of this circular economy? Policies. We need to generate policies that can help promote sustainability, promote the circular economy practice. There was a time we did this ban on single-use plastics, although it has not really been successfully implemented. But if we enable, or if we put systems in place that can create that enabling environment, it is something that we really need to ensure that we are able to successfully enforce in Nigeria. And by so doing, yeah, we can also boost awareness, improve behavioral change, reaching out to communities, the schools, and things like that to make sure that they promote sustainable practices in their households, in the schools, in companies, and things like that. So when all this is done, when we are able to create that circular environment or that circular economy practice successfully in Nigeria, I'm sure that it would attract local and international investments. So there are a lot of investments out there, opportunities out there that Nigeria can leverage, but these guys are not just willing to drop their money anyhow. They're also making feasibility studies to see if a particular community or a particular country is ready or investments ready and things like that. So whenever we're able to implement that circular economic concept for plastics or for whichever material, I'm sure that there will definitely be investments and there'll be success in our improvements in that regard. So it's about policies, making companies implement their stated producer responsibilities that speaks to them, providing funds for the collection of the plastic or whatever material that they are giving out in their production process. Construction companies can also get green certifications for using recycled contents in their production or in their construction. There are a lot of ways you can use plastics to replace glass, to replace metals and things like that in the construction field, and also in the automotive industry too. There are a lot of applications for plastic matrix to be used. All right. So yes. So to also enable this this success, collaboration is key. As we can see today, there are a lot of sectors that are key players: the private sector, the public sector, the NGOs, the government, social sector. These sectors need to come together to collaborate to see how we can create meaningful action or enable this circular environment. So. And by doing so, by the time we come together in this regard, we are able to draw a roadmap. We can see several roadmaps being drawn. Like I said also at the beginning of this presentation, that even the National Plastic Action Partnership, our aim also is to draw a roadmap, a national action roadmap that can help bring Nigeria out of this plastic menace in 3 to 5 years. So these are actions we can take. We can develop policies and make sure that they are feasible. It's not just the development of policy, but we need to try to see how feasible these policies are for Nigeria. Then also promotes research and development, promote innovation, create that financing structure to enable people have access to funding and investment. So there's a lot we can do. There's a lot of collaboration that is possible to foster circular economy in the plastic space and also other sectors today. So in closing, I would say yes, the value chain is a very robust one. It's a promising one because you will not only create a cleaner environment when you practice circular economy, you will also be attracting investments to the country. So these are very good ways of creating investment opportunities or attracting investment opportunities from advanced countries. And by so doing, you're providing jobs, especially to people at the bottom of the pyramid. We see that there are a lot of women and youth at the bottom of the pyramid playing key roles in the recovery of plastics and recyclables out there. So when we promote that circular economy, we are enabling that environment where jobs are being created, noble jobs, and people that should have probably been doing some kind of illegal things to survive, have a meaningful way of sustenance. And also it promotes skills and innovation. So yeah, there are a lot of skills acquisition, a lot of trainings that are possible in this space where speakers have been trained to pick innovatively or given the right personal protective equipment. And yeah, innovative recovery processes. We talked about digitalization and several digitalized or innovative processes for the collection of plastics, and it also applies to different economies. So in this case, yeah, by studying, we'll be regenerating income. We are helping poor households. We are creating an enabling environment for success and prosperity in Nigeria at large. So circular economy concept is really a great way to help the environment, to help, not just the environment alone, to help people succeed, to help people get noble jobs, to help people prosper, to reach out to the poor, to reach out to people at the bottom of the pyramid. And there are lots of opportunities in that regard. So I want to pause here. I hope this presentation has been helpful. And if there are any questions, I'll hand over to the presenters to take it up for you. So my name is Daniel again. You can reach me on this web, not the website now, the email address below. The Nigerian National Action Partnership is based in Nigeria, Lagos, Lagos Business School. These are our office space. And yeah, if you need to collaborate, or if you need to share any ideas, we are open to receiving them or collaborating with you. So thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm handing over back to the presenters. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
You're welcome.
So we can take questions now. Anybody that would like to ask Daniel questions, anything you like to know, please go ahead. You can raise your hands up, then we will take it from there. Or you can just drop your question inside the chat box. So is there any question?
Sorry, excuse me. Okay, thank you, Mr. Adewale. I have to say thank you, Mr. Daniel. While we're waiting for questions to come in, I wanted to ask a very interesting question. First of all, I hope we'll be getting the slides, because I'm sure that everyone on this call would agree with me that the slides were really rich, and they happened to break down so much that I was wishing that we had a longer time for you to really talk us through all the nitty-gritty and things that we would like to know. So I hope we'll be getting the slides from you. Would love to share them with the committee members, go through them and refresh our minds. So that's one thing. Okay, so the second one is okay, awesome, thank you, sir. So the second question would be around the demography. So we have a lot of people in our communities who are young, so they may not necessarily have access to begin to do policy. That's, we may not have direct access to those policymakers. But then what can we start doing right now? You know, for those of us that are in school, for those of us that are, you know, working jobs, what are some of the things we can start doing right now to contribute to circular economy? I think that would be my own question.
Okay, yes, thank you very much. That's a very important one. Yeah, in your capacity as students, workers, and things like that, what we can do, we can, okay, like looking at the slides, for instance, it more speaks about the social sector, where you can mobilize communities and improve engagement. You can also implement plastic action initiative. I know this kind of things can be capital intensive. It also talks about supporting gender mainstreaming. That means you're really helping, especially women and youth, in that space to be key players, support them in any way you can. So yes, it's more speaks about awareness. In your capacity, you can boost awareness. You can volunteer in different initiatives or with different NGOs that are big on awareness and community engagements to create to create significant impact or contribute your quota. So whenever you see any of these NGOs trying to target a community or go there to do some kind of community engagement events, you can partner with them. So that's a possible way. And if you have the funding to at least start something as regards aggregation, then it's a very good way to go. You can try to start small. You don't necessarily have to have all the equipment to set up a good aggregation of, it doesn't have to be plastics now, but let us use plastic for instance. You can just play in that aggregation space. Maybe you have an initiative where you want to connect all players in your environment or your community. Let them just bring that plastic to you. Then you can connect with an aggregator that comes to collect it from you. So you can just be that hub where people get to bring those plastics to you. I know it can also be space demanding on things like that, but yeah, there are several ways you can engage communities, but it is more about the awareness. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that, sir. Thank you very, very much. So over to you, Mr. Adewale, and the rest of the house. I don't know if we have any questions.
Okay, is there anybody that still have questions? Well, if anybody does not have questions, Mr. Daniel, because you work for the National Plastic Action Partnership, I'd like to ask about the new plastic tax. How is it going to change the environmental landscape in recycling? I'm sure it is a question people would like to know.
Okay, yes. So the Nigerian National Plastic Action Partnership, our aim is to create that multi-stakeholder platform where we begin to talk really about what can we do significantly as regards the eradication of plastic waste. And this will be done in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Environment because we know they are the enablers of any change that must occur in the country as it is. So what we're trying to do is to develop an action roadmap. The action roadmap will include several policy recommendations, several projects that can be implemented, and yes, several other activities in that plastic value chain that can be considered for Nigeria to bring us out of this plastic waste situation. So we'll be doing that. We've started the conversation. We started in the year 2021, and we've been able to connect a lot with several key players like in the private sector, the NGOs, the academia, and things like that. So in the coming months, we'll be forming task forces that will be implementing several key areas like if I want to go to my slides with the NPAP, I think it would take much time, but we have the policy task force, we have policy impact area, we have innovation, we have financing, we have behavioral change, the metrics and things like that. So we've been able to split it in different sectors, and each of these sectors would have key players or volunteers, experts in that field, working to see what can be done to ensure that change is being effected, or what kind of projects can be done in those different impact areas. So that is the way to go. And we are hoping that in the coming months, we'll be able to also host workshops to empower our key players, especially people that are waste pickers or key players at the bottom of the pyramid there, facilitating this recovery and things like that. And more importantly, the EPRs. We want to enable or create that enabling environment or that's the possibility of private companies being able to implement or fulfill their EPRs by creating that fund system where they're able to dedicate some kind of amount per production activity that will facilitate the recovery of plastic. So PepsiCo, for instance, that is huge on the use of plastics, we're able to put some funds together, and these funds will be used or channeled to supporting aggregators and different players in that recovery space so that they can upscale capacity and yes, boost their collection capacities across board. So there's a lot of possibilities in that regard, but we'll get to unveil them as we progress in the journey. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Daniel. And anybody still have more questions? So, Mr. Daniel, there is a question for you.
Okay.
Are there any specific challenges these businesses or individuals may face while trying to implement circular economic principles, and what strategies can be used to overcome them?
Okay, thank you very much for this question. Yeah, there are not a lot, but there are some challenges you would probably face. Funding is a very big challenge because most of these circular economy initiatives are capital intensive, especially when you want to go into the business arm of it. If it's just about awareness and things like that, I mean, that is the cheapest way to go. And you are making more significant impact. You can make a lot of impact in awareness without spending much money. But when you really want to go into the aspect of recovery or making change in that area, you probably need to set up a business. You have the challenge of funding. You have to overcome several transportation challenges. You need logistics. Logistics is very key because when you're going to collect recyclables or any material from any household, and the cost of collecting the recyclable is much more than the value of what you're collecting, and you see that it's a mess already. And recently we've just increased the price of fuel. So really it's God, God help us in this case. So really there's a lot of challenges in that area. Policies as well. When you start up with collecting plastics or recyclables, you have to deal with LOMA for Lagos. Whichever state you are, you have to deal with the Waste Management Authority of that state to ensure that you are in line with whatever they are doing. So you have to just make sure that you are in line and you keep tab with every other thing that can come your way. So logistics is a challenge. Like I mentioned, funding is a challenge. Even space to implement your activities too. It's a huge challenge. So, but I will not want us to emphasize or really speak about the challenge, but let us speak about the opportunities. Let us speak about how good we can make things work better. Because if you focus on the challenges, you will not be able to achieve anything. So that's what I would say. Thank you. I also see a question here. Like asking if NPAP is looking at partnering with aggregators, things like that. Well, the NPAP is not really an implementing partner. We have, of course, we are in collaboration with aggregators. In that regard, we are bringing them together to see how we can empower them, equip them, conduct trainings, and in the long run, connect them with promising financial opportunity. So these are the ways we connect with aggregators and ensure that they are well equipped. Thank you. I think Mr. Adekunle, you have a question, sir.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Daniel Oderinde, for a very insightful presentation. I wanted to ask a question. My own overview about the plastic waste ecosystem. I think the most difficult part is the collection or the recovery. What have you been able to support government or at least engage with government about collection, particularly focus on municipal waste separation? Because I noticed that when a lot of this plastic, I mean, you can look around Lagos, for example, every drainage that you look into, you can find plastic in there. That is my own metrics for how well we are doing, So the focus is, how do we ensure that we can get this plastic from the generation point directed to recycling centers without having them go first to dump sites or inside the drainages? And that way we can have higher value recycled products, So I don't know if you have considered this or if you are already engaging stakeholders in this respect, because until we can actually fine-tune the collection process and make the recycling process efficient, we are really still scratching the surface. I don't know what you think.
Yes, I totally agree with you, sir. And yes, we are in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Environment, and that is the results we are targeting in the long run. Because like I mentioned in this presentation, there are a lot of external factors that are mitigants to we really doing what you said. I mean, it will be really great if we can create that separated waste collection system at source to ensure that plastics and recyclables are not contaminated before getting to the recycler, because when they get contaminated, they will not be so useful for recycling anymore. But then there's a lot of infrastructural gap in that regard, and it speaks to other sectors also catching up. There's a need for logistics to the transport system to be working effectively. There's a need for the waste management authorities to upscale their recovery capacities, because imagine there are cases where some companies or some households that want to really implement this sustainability system or the separated waste collection system in their household. They will separate the waste, but when LOMA comes with their singular truck, they will still put everything together. Then the question is, what is the point separating waste in the first place? So you see that there's a lot of infrastructure that would enable this. What the EPR can do in this regard is, yes, when the EPR is being put together, all sectors can benefit from it. The waste management authorities will be able to get more trucks to facilitate the separated collection of several of different recyclables or different materials. And also well, I'm not sure how the transport system will benefit from that, but that's another external factor for the government to address. So yes, it's possible, but for now, it's looking like it's not so feasible. But in the long run, this will definitely happen. And the collaboration we establish now, the activities we establish now, and things we do will determine how quickly we'll get to that. That's what I would say to this. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Daniel. Does anybody still have a question? But I'm thanking everybody for coming in, because we almost used up our 1 hour. But to add to what Mr. Daniel has said, the EPR is something I know NPAP is working on, and I know Nigeria is involved, World Bank is involved to help draft the regulations, to help draft the implementation of it. And that's why I asked the question about the green tax that is being set up, which Mr. Daniel has made, how it is going to be implemented. I know those are things that will be covered in the EPR. Mr. Daniel does know more than me, because they are the stakeholders engaging with the government. But we want to thank everybody for participating in this. Thank you, Mr. Daniel, for the eye-opening presentation. I'm sure I'm going to be reaching out after the presentation. Thank you very, very much. Thank you, everybody. We look forward to having you in our subsequent webinars that we'll be having. Please, everyone, have a lovely weekend. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone.
If anybody is interested in getting the slide, let me drop my email address, so we could just send the mail, or we could collate the email address so we could send to everyone. So my email address is in the chat box, so everybody can get that, and you can reach out to me on that. So you will reach out to Mr. Daniel to share the presentation.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Daniel. Thank you, Mr. Adewale. Thank you, everyone, for joining the call. Yeah, I think we're done. Okay, I do have one announcement to make. I don't know if everybody here is a part of the Circular Oasis community. If you are, awesome. If you're not, we encourage you to join the community as much as possible, because we believe that your insights are quite important and we want to hear from you. And also we want you to contribute to the circular economy ecosystem. So I will be reaching out to you. I think I have all your emails if you registered. We'll be reaching out to you to do feedbacks and to just know how we can keep improving. So with that, we wish you all a wonderful weekend. Do have a great day. Yes, we'll be sharing the recordings as well. So just watch out for the emails coming next week. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Happy Saturday. Bye-bye.
Bye.